Episode 34. All right, guys, welcome into episode 34 of Coffee and Chel. I am Sleeves. He is Keso as we power through the summer months, the downtime of our dearly beloved video game, NHL, as we try and come up with new things to talk about. Keso, my man, we'll start with, what we always do, and how are you doing? What are you up to?
Dude, I'm doing really good. I went to a work happy hour on Friday, drank a little bit too much. I inadvertently invited like my whole office over to my house in some point in July.
Excellent.
So that's happening. It's always fun to get together with coworkers outside of work, especially like in finance and stuff, because people are always like so not uptight. I work with a lot of good people,
Yeah.
but just like you actually get to see the person,
Oh, yeah.
you're at work, it's like, oh, another Monday, da, 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 da. Oh, you got those TPS reports, right? But like outside of work, you get to see like, oh, this person's interested in this stuff. Like, you see their significant other, they're more than just a name behind the screen or whatever.
Okay.
So it was a lot of fun. And then other than that, I had this, we talked about it a little bit on the podcast. I had what I think is a gold mine of a business idea.
I'll do as
So I'm
well.
pursuing that with another content creator, Two Man Advantage. So we're working on some things like almost every day. I guess time to put my MBA to use as I'm in the program, but it's exciting.
That's dope,
And
dude.
then other than that, the dog days of summer for NHL content,
It
right?
is tough. It is very tough, let me tell you. Well, that is good to hear. I'm glad that I mean, a good workouting. I miss that. I haven't had one. I mean, I guess when I went to Philly, like, is that a workouting?
Yeah, well, you got that, and then you went out to dinner in San Jose, right? So
That's
it's like a
true.
workouting.
That's a
Yeah.
workout. Seeing Sparty was a workouting, I guess. That's true. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I mean, he pays half your income, right? So
he's a
you went out with your
capital.
boss.
He's a
Yeah.
capital investor of the Sleeves Corporation.
Yeah.
Man, we're into. Have you? Let me ask you this: have you watched any of the GWC?
I did. I watched a little bit on Saturday.
Okay.
Who did I watch? That was the PS5 side, right? And PS4.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so I did watch some of that.
Okay.
There
Okay.
was
Wait.
some good gameplay.
There was.
Um,
There was. I think
yeah.
Aves going pushing Gren. I think Aves is now into the discussion of like one of the better players. Like I would put him in the top 15 in North
Okay.
America. Like I would be willing to, be pretty confident. Like he took Gren to 3 games. After the first game he won, which is pretty handy. He did very well. I was like, okay, here we go. Gren down one again, like but ends up finding a way to win. And then you could definitely see the nerves in the second and third game. They went pretty much as anticipated. But then he eliminated Pens. And
Yeah.
I saw Pens. I talked to Junior Pens afterwards. We were both very high on him that he had a very good shot of not just getting to Montreal but winning the whole thing. And he showed me the screenshots of the game and when I
I saw
watched
them too. Yeah.
I watched Pens' games against Regs, and it reminded me a lot of Florida and Tampa. Not that like the better player didn't win. Regs was definitely the better player in those games, but it just looked like he was fighting the game the whole time. Much like real hockey, if you don't get a bounce and you're playing someone extremely good, it's very difficult. There's a couple goals that he had given up that were uh, tough animation wise, and it's very difficult to come back against someone that's as good as Regs. So we get Gren Regs for the finals to go to Montreal. One of them, more than likely, both of them will move on to Montreal, and it just goes to. I want to talk about this a little bit because I saw someone bring this up because the MLB Summer Circuit happened, which is like their GWC. And again, dude, MLB does a lot of great things, but man, they are lagging behind in esports and competitive
Yeah.
play, like way behind. So to put this in retrospect, like they give out their prize pool is 25,000 for their summer circuit. The NHL's is 100, and you got to think like, what's the player base like? Almost 10 times, like
Probably at
yeah,
least,
at
right?
least right. So stunning there, but they're at least making strides over the last 2 years. And someone had tweeted out like, man, it's funny how much everyone complains about the games and sports games as a whole, and all the luck and the crap animations and the dumb glitches, and it's like, man, you get to the end of like the best on best and it's always the same few. It like kind of makes you think, like
Yeah, I think those guys are just so far ahead that they can
yeah.
beat the luck, right? Like they're just watching Regs play against Pens. I thought Pens played game one. I actually thought that was like a 50-50 game.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
Pens had a lot of bad luck there.
Hmm.
and he let up like kind of like that same one-timer play that you kept calling out, right,
Yeah.
on the broadcast. But other than that, like Penn's was the best. Game one was the best he's played all year. In terms of skill, it just didn't work out. And I think the luck doesn't play a factor really until you get outside of like the top four players. Whenever you get into like that five through maybe like top 20, where like probably like the fifth best player should beat like the 20th best player most of the time. They're just not as good as like Regs and Gren to counteract that luck.
And it's wild to me because in a video game like NHL, like it's never stated. Actually, maybe it has been stated. I know that there is something that what's the best way to say it? Like it's been mentioned publicly. Like they program human error.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Right.
that's the thing with like missed nets and stuff. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly. And you would think that like they somehow managed to beat that. You know, maybe they won't win every
because
tournament.
they get 10 chances to your two, right? So
Exactly, and
even if they get bad luck, it doesn't matter.
and it's wild to watch them play because like I said, yeah, like there's ways to play this game. Obviously, we make content on like improving at it and in different levels. You're at the higher end. I'm more like trying to make the player base a little bit better as a whole, and it's wild that what they do because it's in the NHL video game. The one thing I'll say with the NHL video game, it requires the most thumb skill. And it's really not
Yeah.
close. Like it's really not anywhere close to
You
the other
say that
games.
to some Madden players, all of a
Dude,
sudden there's a fight, but
knowledge, like Madden is all knowledge, in my
yeah, it
opinion.
is.
Knowledge and
There's a
money.
lot of stick skill in Madden.
In like
Yeah, ever since it went to Ultimate Team, yeah.
Ultimate Team in Madden is probably the biggest money pit pay to win Ultimate Team of any game.
Dude, it's like
It's
I don't know.
disgusting.
It's like the Indian Casino on Christmas Vacation. Is that you ever watched that as a
I have
kid?
never seen Christmas
Dude,
Vacation.
okay, well, somebody got a reference that listens to that and they were laughing. But it's just like yeah, it's like a casino, like how Ultimate Team is in Madden.
It's wild. In NHL, I don't think it's pay to win. I think it's pay to play.
Okay.
I think it's like you have to put money in if you don't start at a certain time or you don't have an X amount of hours to grind every week. You can get a team, but pay to win, like I have the best team ever, which by that logic means that I should beat everybody, right? And obviously
Yeah.
I don't, especially this year. I struggled so bad this year. But yeah, like Madden, I think is all like knowledge. You need to have extensive knowledge of like when you're facing a cover two, when that free safety is going to drop, or when there's a spy. Like it's wild how much they know. And obviously there's set plays that almost everyone runs, but still like you have to acknowledge like when certain plays are, what audibles could potentially be coming, and that's where it far takes over NHL in that sense.
That's what I like about Madden a lot. I
Yeah.
remember reading or watching an interview. This guy hadn't played competitive Madden in probably 15 years. His name was Big Gene, I believe. He had won the Madden Challenge in like 2004 and 2005, and it was like 100 grand to like the winner, and like nobody else got like any money.
Wow.
And he said every single year when he got the game, he would go in the practice mode and run every single play in the game and every playbook against like the various types of defenses he could go against, right? He would do that for how long would that take, you know?
I am craving new strategies, bro.
Yeah.
Maybe I think we're the only ones that talk about this. Like among like creators. Like cuz it's really boring in the sense that like if they imagine they didn't come up with anything new, okay? But they came out with like 15 new offensive defensive strategies. Like the entire game would change. The entire game would change.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be great. I mean, there'd be you don't even have to go customizable like the created plays and stuff, but
I
like
don't
if you just
think
added more strategies,
in the information era, like I think that creative play in NHL would absolutely ruin the game entirely.
yeah, it would almost be like the created playbooks in Madden, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I keep bringing up Madden, but
Yeah.
it would be because there'd be a few that would like mess with the AI a little bit, and then all of a sudden there's 20 YouTube videos, right? Hey guys, No Sleeves here with this play that will break the game.
Yeah, like it would just like the information era just like completely ruins it, especially in NHL because like their patches are so few and far between and it takes them forever. And the most important not the most important player, but I mean, I guess like in hockey, like if you have a good goaltender, you're fine. But if it's ones and zeros and the goaltender's programmed, like there is always going to be certain things that will beat the goaltender, right?
Yeah.
Until we get to a point in which the AI goaltender can evolve mid game, which terrifies me because then we're like in Terminator or something. But like,
Yeah.
I don't see how that'll ever change. So create a play, it would be really fun. but it would after a week the whole game would be ruined. It would be the most dog experience. So I just want like the potential chance to have like, dude, there's 3 offensive strategies, right? And they've been the same since Mark Crawford in 2004 wanted to teach us them, which is just in it. I don't know how this isn't brought up more. Like me and you talk about it quite a bit. Like
Oh, we probably talked about it on 10 podcasts,
it's
maybe out of the
dude, but like it's just
34.
inexcusable. Like you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
Like
it's like I think the thing that makes it difficult is it has these sliders, but you're like really not sure
of what they
how it
do.
impacts. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you kind of have an idea and you change them and you find ones that you like, but there's no like concrete evidence of like this is what this does. This is why I like it.
My guess would be so again, being game changers, we get to see behind the curtain a little bit, and I know not just NHL, but this is how like yearly sports games go. They have a list of like 200 things that they want to fix. This is like how the millionaire mindset. You put like you have your list of things that you want to complete, but then the most important have to go at the top, and then you work on that one, and you don't move on to the next one, and then you go on and on and on and on. I feel like strategies is probably like 7th every year. And they like literally just can't get to it every single year.
Yeah.
Um, and I would assume that all of the resources for NHL and their development team is on cross console. Like I would be personally we haven't seen anything on the next year's game. We usually don't until like around this time.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, but we
June.
haven't yet, which is like weird because like sometimes prior years we'd have like a build of the game or something.
Yeah, and usually
Um,
the old game changer trip, which it's gonna sound crazy, is way more effective than what we have now. Where they
yeah,
would fly people out and basically you're locked in this room for like 3 days, 8 hours a day, and you're like just playing the game against like 6 other players, which
yeah.
sounds like it's just like a free trip to all the people who are the most popular in the game. Man, the amount of stuff that you accomplished and bugs you found in those, I only went to one compared to now where we'll get builds, but no one's life aligns. Like
That's the hard part
we're
about
not
it
paid.
because
We're not
yeah.
paid to be game changers. Stunningly enough, we're not paid to be game changers. So there's people like you. You have a job, and now you've got to test. And we test solo. Like to be honest, or we'll play against each
It's
other.
funny, the console thing came up as an issue too that past year, right? Because there
Hmm.
were 4 different consoles to test on,
They had to
and
make a
a lot
build
of
they
the
could send.
yeah, and a lot of the game changers were on Xbox. I had nobody but Henrique or
Hmm.
not Henrique,
Me
Thrash to
and
play
Thrash.
against.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was it. Yeah, it
yep.
was. It was a lot more difficult, and obviously COVID impacts that. That wasn't like an EA like thing, but like obviously cost like it's far
But if
cheaper.
EA started COVID, you wouldn't be
No,
surprised, right?
yeah, I'm not, yeah, like that's it, dude. That's it. But yeah, like so, it just seems to me like that specifically would be way down on their list, and it's really unfortunate because when you think about gameplay, they're always hyper focused on like new animations and like skating engines and all this. Like, dude, if you just gave us more routes and control over where our AI go, we would change that would change the game more than anything else.
Dude, so against Regs,
Yep,
Pens, man,
the
he
line
had a
change.
real no, it wasn't the line change. Regs passed the puck around the boards, and
Yeah.
his AI skated backwards, like
Oh
just
yeah,
directionless
his
into the
ass
boards. And
went in.
I was like, oh
Yep.
my god.
Yep.
I was like, I feel so bad for him because I have no idea why the AI did that, and it happens too quick to click on the guy, right? And that's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, the AI kind of
At the
gave
at
Regs a
the
goal.
at the end of the beginning of the year, if you guys remember back to the beginning of the year, there was an error or there was an issue where the second your players went into the defensive zone or when they were defending the rush, no matter what, no matter where they were on the ice, they would turn around and skate backwards. Do you remember that when
Yeah,
all 5 would like, or other than the one
I
you
couldn't
saw?
remember if that was this year or last year.
I think it was this year.
Okay,
This year feels really long. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah.
Yeah, so they did a patch to fix where like all of them would turn around. It was comical. Like if you got it, it was like you're controlling a guy and your defenseman at the top, or your wingers can defending the defenseman at the top of the rush would turn around and skate back into the zone. Penn's had that too, where his AI went behind the net to go and intercept a pass, where he just passed it along the boards, and it wasn't a fast one, but because the AI decided to turn its ass around and go back into the boards, his stick didn't intercept it, and it went right through for an easy goal. And it's like,
Yeah.
like that stuff's pretty unfortunate. But I would if I were to hazard a guess, all of their resources from as many as they can pull is working on the cross console issue.
You have to assume that, especially after FIFA
Yeah,
announced their testing. I think that's going on in June, and that's going to be on the current game, which is pretty cool. So I'd also hope Madden. Have they announced anything
I
yet?
don't believe so. And they're not. There's no EA Play thing this year, eh? There's some things. Maybe we should talk about this because there's been some questionable things in the news recently. One, it went public that EA was looking for a potential buyer.
Yeah, right. Like a merger, wasn't that
Yeah,
it?
it wasn't like they were trying to be sold off or like to Apple or Disney and they'd be a sole proprietor. It was like they wanted a merger with another company, and that's interesting, um, because like that speaks that like they want a major shakeup in how their company is run, or operated. And then you had like there, I just saw an announcement. There's no EA Play, so there was EA pulled out of E3 a couple years ago. Now E3 is completely gone, which unfortunately, COVID ended that event. I personally loved it. It was kind of like, but they wanted like $1 million for 15 minutes on a stage. So
Yeah, dude, and
they,
I'm sure you remember watching those as a
mm-hmm.
kid too, like on G4 and stuff. If you
Yep,
guys had that in Canada, where
yep,
it was like that was like the fun thing to watch. And was that June that it would happen?
yep, yeah.
Yeah.
In about a couple weeks, yeah, and like
Okay.
it's sad to me, but like I understand as a business, and a lot of people don't think like that, right? Like obviously, like as a consumer, you just want what's best for you, as you should, right? But you have to logically think is if you were to run a business, not EA, because EA makes hand money or hand over fist money, but even if you were EA, let's say you ran EA, you wouldn't pay $2 million for 30 minutes on a stage at E3 when you could host your own event and control exactly, sell ads to it, whatever. Like it just as a business
Yeah.
doesn't make much sense. So they created EA Play, and it was like this. That was when Skate got teased 3 years ago. This will be the third
Yeah, and then
year.
I think they just announced that they've not began development, but like they kind of just like ramped things up for Skate.
Yeah, and but like that was at EA Play, and now it looks like EA Play is not happening at all, and EA is just throwing their games out at various bigger like conventions. So Star Wars Celebration is coming. You would expect that Fallen Order would be like the Star Wars game that EA is doing would be announced there. So I'm not sure, and I'm assuming they'll just independently release stuff about Madden and FIFA
Yeah.
or well, EAFC now. But yeah, like when it comes to like NHL, I would assume that all of it. But what that means though is that because I've said this quite a bit because everyone's like if once cross console is there. That is the biggest fundamental change they can make to the game to improve the entire game. Like no other thing that they could add would make NHL a better video game than cross console because of how small the play. It's not small, but it is not big when you separate them. Even when it's just two consoles. When you put them all together, all of the possibilities open up. But the problem is that the first year that cross console is a thing, me and you can both agree that we have no faith it will work. Like zero faith.
Yeah, maybe there will be like a 30% disconnect rate,
Yeah,
in those games or
yeah.
something, and
They'll
then
be
that champs
looping.
run is ruined.
Yeah, exactly. Like there is going to be very, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's like, like certain things are cross console or something. Like we have no idea on it yet. They've been very hush hush about it, and that like maybe it's like a December thing, like what happened with roster sharing. I have no idea. It's very hard to implement.
Well, that's kind of funny though, because like, so we had the roster sharing patch, and
Yep,
it's like I know EA has these yearly releases, but it's gotten so bad. Like, I mean, it's just too hard to develop a game in a year.
it's not.
Where it's
It's
like,
not.
hey,
It's not
and
logical.
so NHL's done it, Madden's done it, where it's like we have these things that we want to put in the game, we can't do it, so let's just put in these added
Title
features and
title
patches, which
updates. Yeah,
yeah, these title updates where it's just like, just take a little bit of extra time. Maybe don't make a game free. I know that's not feasible
it's not. It's
for a
not.
corporation.
Yep.
But
Even if
yeah.
they stopped NHL for a year, because a lot of people would be like, "Hey, what if they just didn't make NHL and they go bi-yearly, right?"
What
The,
would I do? What would I do, Sleeves? What
bro,
would you do?
I mean, obviously they would have to continually update, but the problem is that the consumer would then expect 2 years worth of updates in the game, which like probably isn't feasible as well. You're expecting double the stuff, right? So it's
Yeah.
essentially the exact same thing. You're just but now they lose $80 a year per 500,000 people that buy the NHL. So like, again, as a business, it doesn't make sense, which is why we'll never see it. And then we would probably let down with whatever is actually like produced by it. And it's 2 years. Could you imagine a disappointing game that took 2 years to make?
I mean, if you compare 22 to 20, what
Ugh.
differences are there really? So like, I mean, that's kind of what you have to do. Like compare 22 to 20, that would be the 2-year gap.
Can we agree that 22 is like one of the worst? Year
In
over year, a
terms,
year over year. That's the only way to base sports games. I've talked about this a lot too. Is like year over year.
yeah, yeah, I think it's all things that really aren't related to gameplay because I
Mm-hmm.
think at its base a hockey game's always fun. I saw Derek Carr of all people
Mm-hmm.
sending out tweets about playing NHL 22, right? So a hockey game's always going to be fun, but I think it's just like the features and stuff that kind of ruin it for me. Ultimate Team, which is pretty much just the only thing I play year over year. There's not much that changed.
It was like one of the lowest, and then you separated the player base by 4.
I mean, the you already mentioned it, the roster sharing stuff. That was probably a big update for all
That
the
was
franchise
awesome.
guys, and
Yeah.
but it's like those are separated over 4 consoles. So some of the roster like files and stuff that you've played with on Xbox, I tried to look at one and I was like, oh, I don't have that on PlayStation because nobody made it on PS5.
Yeah, like Tugi's are pretty, whether you want to agree or disagree with the high end of some of his ratings, that's fine. But he goes and adds in like 2 full classes, make sure every contract and player reaches the potential of what it looks like based on his playing career, which is just it takes like 70 hours. So
Yeah,
yeah, like yeah, you're right. It doesn't have it on. Is that going to be cross console? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be interesting. I think that the year after, whenever cross console comes in, that will be.
you said earlier this year
I
NHL
said 23
23.
because I assumed that like, you know what I mean? Like, I was wrong. I was not
We just
accurate.
keep pushing it back a year. NHL 24 is going to be really
There
really
will
good.
be a year where it is feature heavy because they can actually make new modes. And they aren't
Yeah,
hamstrung by having to funnel everyone into one mode like Rivals. Like, that is what I'm waiting for.
yeah,
Cross console doesn't
definitely.
fix everything, especially in Hockey Ultimate Team. It doesn't fix everything. It allows you to implement and build the things that fixes everything,
Yeah.
which is two different things. Two different things.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's all right, let's move on. I want to touch on a little bit something I'm really excited about. Over the beginning of the playoffs, there's another game changer and creator between the pipes. If you follow him on Instagram, they do like goalie content for ESHL. It's I believe it's John Well and Crease Police. I
I
think they're
believe
the one.
so.
Yeah, those are the two, and they're two great game changers, and good gold. They make great goaltender content for ESHL. So if you haven't followed them, go check out between the pipes. And they ran this thing called the pad offs, and it was a bracket challenge where community members sent in pictures of their pad builds for each of the playoff teams. I thought it was just such a good, and then everyone voted on Instagram story. So I got to thinking, I'm like, man, I would love to do the same thing for the worst cards of NHL 22. So I started that, and my editor started like mocking things up, and I got the bracket together. So I put in like I put in like 5 or 7 that like I know, whether it just be, I used them or like I heard enough early on in the year about some of the worst ones, and they were pretty universally agreed upon. And the rest of them were just suggestions from my Discord, my YouTube comments, my Twitch stream, and I managed to find 32. 32 is a stretch. Not gonna lie, there will be some that are in there that are just gonna immediately be voted better, or like, there's gonna be a card there, whatever going against will be the worst card. So the first round will be kind of a wash for the most part. There won't be that many difficult decisions, but I'm interested. I'm interested to see. Give me a couple off the top of your head that you would
Ye-
nominate for worst.
there is one that's the worst in my opinion. And then there's a second close worst. But the worst one is that Kessler collections one was whenever
The
you
team builder Kessler.
complete, yeah, the team builder one. I would, like I said before on this podcast, I would bet money that that card, even though it said 90 overall, um, it was his gold base version at like 70 something. And that
We
gold base version, he had no offensive awareness.
we had
So
that
in
was
like
the one that
hand
you could
eye.
notice. Like, it was
Yeah, because he
noticeable.
couldn't, it was like a 90 overall. And at that point, whenever he came out, it was probably one of the top 5 to 10 highest rated cards in the game.
Oh yeah, there
Um,
was only yeah.
there was only 3 or 2 like
I,
nine. I don't know. There weren't a lot of 90s,
Mario,
right?
I think Mario and Gretzky were 89s or
Yeah, they
90s.
were. Yeah. So I think there was something wrong with that card. We never got any like concrete like feedback from EA. But I also think that's so tinfoil hat theory time. I think that's one of the things where EA probably couldn't say like, "Hey, we had this card out that you guys like spent money in acquiring the cards to
Mm-hmm.
get it, and it wasn't working as intended." Because the second card is that Yager card that came out, that 91 overall MSP at the beginning of the year that just didn't play right, right? Like I know he had
He
like
couldn't
mid
shoot, man.
90s.
He wouldn't.
He had mid 90s shooting. At that point, he was the
You
highest
could
rated
flick
shooter in
up.
the
You should
game.
be able to flick up at that stage.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and he was another alumni that had a base gold version because he was playing in the Czech league and that played like a 77. I think he was like a 77 in the game.
Another one like that was that Bedard, that under 22 to Bedard. I
Now, was that because he was small?
no, there was like again fundamentally like he just wouldn't like he. There's like shooting where like it doesn't seem, but like you're missing the net and like you're
Yeah.
not getting. If you had nine, I think you had 94 speed or 93 or 93 acceleration, 94 speed. And at the time it came out, that's extremely high. And when you are never able to get a break, like not breakaway, but breakaway speed, if you can't run away from somebody, with that, like there's something not clicking and not going right. This leads to me to something else I've been thinking a lot about because a lot of people are like, I saw one of my comments like, oh, there's a common thread here. They're slow. And you know what like really chaps my ass is that like stats just like do not matter enough in NHL and there's no
Yeah.
way to quantify them. So we do this all the time now, but if we can pair MLB's attributes and what they actually do, um so let's say their contact rating against lefties and righties. Very easy to determine, if it's higher against lefties, their contact is better against lefties and righties. But what it does is it increases the PCI size.
Mhm.
And that you can see that, right? You can see that on screen. Your PCI is literally bigger. Power, obviously that means that they can hit the ball further. Their velocity is higher on the exit velo, and you can see that number. And then, like swings do come into context. So everyone that has really high power doesn't mean that they just all of them hit home runs. There's some guys that have lower power that mash the ball because their swing is just really good. But then there's like speed, and their speed is very evident. Like it is very, very evident. Arm strength, same thing. The ball just, when you throw it, like I would say there's less attributes for sure, but we've been like there is like 20 attributes for every card, and there's not quantifiable ways to view how they operate. You know?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, it's tough because it all happens in a vacuum, right? Like there's only like a few instances and then they stand out. Um, Wrist shot accuracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's one that sticks out because it's realistically, if you have 99, you should probably only miss the net 2% of the time, I would think.
1%.
Yeah,
Or hit
right.
the bar. Yeah.
Yeah, and like in my mind, how it should work, and maybe it does in the game, maybe I just don't notice it, is if you have a guy with 99 wrist shot accuracy and you settle the puck and you aim it to the top right corner, it should go to that top right corner most of the time, right? If you have 80 accuracy, maybe it goes like lower than that. Like maybe it misses the net more. Maybe it goes into the goalie's chest like 10% of the time, right? There should maybe that error model is built in. I'm just not sure.
I wish we
It
could.
has to be,
This
right? It
summer,
has to
man,
be.
this summer, let's spend like a couple hours and run some tests like we did with that stupid manual tip nonsense
That didn't work.
that did not exist. But
Dude,
yeah,
there was that point in time where you and I would spend an hour in a versus or a hut game, friendly game, doing D to Ds.
yes, there was.
It's time we're not gonna be able to get back when we die.
No, absolutely not. But no, I feel like me and you are the only nerds that would actually like go in and do that. Like, again, but how do you test that? You legitimately cannot test that because there isn't something that can display it. Like, if you go into practice mode, like I mean, I think the only way to see attributes is with a large enough discrepancy
Yeah,
because a 1 is not enough. Like 93 to 94 shooting.
that's no difference, right?
It's not. It's the exact same. But when do you see this difference? And maybe it's a plateau because you here. There's a really good example. Auto Sauce. Last year or maybe it was NHL 20. Nuge, I remember, did this great experiment where he went and found out when you would auto sauce at what attribute. So he tested and he also proved that synergies work, which I thought was amazing. So this was like at 79, if a player's stick was in the way, he would not auto sauce. It would be pass if you pass along the ice, it would get it would go right. It would right along the ice and it wouldn't be picked. At 80 and above, If you sent a pass and someone stick was in the way or a player was in the way, it would auto sauce. So
So low to have that as the threshold.
yeah, and I don't know if it was 100% of the time, but it would
Mhm.
happen. You could get it to trigger at 80. And what was crazy is that he put a 79 overall and then did a passing synergy, and that was how he proved it that synergies actually work, which I thought was genius, because
Yeah.
there was a way to actually get. But yeah, like you know, I think X Factors, dude. Could you imagine? Again, this is the pessimist in me, but could you imagine if X Factors just don't do anything? Give me one other than, let's say, like 1T.
Okay.
You
Other
can
than one
you
T.
can clearly hear 1T. It offers a different
Yeah.
audible noise.
But the audio cue doesn't count because Born Leader had that glitch where anytime you took a shot with somebody with I think Gold Born Leader, it would have that noise. Do you remember that?
I don't, but I don't play with the audio on, so I guess like you know what I mean. You
Okay.
just play audio on, so it
I
really
mean, I
picks
know
up.
Born Leader worked because I would score a goal and I would see the boost.
Like you would see, yeah, you would see that. Like I guess that one's like the only like concrete one that you could see. But like, dude,
I
there's
think Shock and Awe. Shock and Awe was a pretty
that
glitchy
one's
one times.
evident. That's evident
Yeah.
too. I guess it'd be like there's some that,
Backhand Beauty. We saw Regs use that a few times
dude,
with
was he doing?
was that him
That
with
was
it or no? Was
Crosby.
that uninstall?
Uninstall. Yeah. Did you see that? Like, I don't know if he was. I had not seen that goal personally, and I'm sure there's like guys that are like, bro, have you never seen that? Where he was like basically forehand, backhand from like the face-off dot. Every shot that he went and
Yeah.
took was far side with a backhand, which makes no sense in real hockey. But he did it with Crosby, and Crosby's backhand beauty was on, and it went in like 3 times, and I was like, what in the world? Like that's. I mean, I
Yeah, I mean, I
guess
the thing with the game though is like backhand beauty for most of the year was like 8 points, and there was only one person,
it was
Crosby, that had
Crosby.
it. So it's
Yeah.
like, why would you spend 8 points on that? I still think they didn't really have anybody released with it.
Would you agree that like making it simpler with less would be better? And I'm not talking just about X factors, but we talked about this with divisions. I've mentioned this before that there should not be 10 divisions. There's not enough people. There should be 5, and that way you're searching within your realm. You know, if Division 5 is Division 9 and 10, that's
Yeah.
Division 4 is 8 and 7, right? I think that would work way better, just from like matchmaking and as well as the amount of players you're playing. The other thing is like again the attributes like body checking. 21, I thought it really mattered. I did. I thought
Yeah,
it.
you mentioned that with I think was it Adam
Makar.
Fox?
It was
Makar,
Makar
that's it. Yeah.
last year, where finally smaller defensemen were fine as long as they had really high body checking. But then this year, man, like one of the worst card nominees is Team of the Year Adam Fox because he's got high body checking, but he was just an awful card for the million you had to spend on him.
Yeah.
And it's like only now truculence works like that. And it's like, but body checking, there's also strength. And then there's like balance. And then there's the player's height. It's like there's no way to quantify what a lot of these attributes actually do.
Yeah.
And when you ask, bro, dude, that might be the most frustrating. Dude, the amount of times I ask what an attribute does and don't get a concrete answer, or I do and it doesn't make any sense is, I don't know.
I mean, for some of those attributes are like modifiers, right? So we know it's strength. That was added. I feel like back in like NHL 11 or 12, maybe strength was added.
Strength is a
And
modifier.
it's simply a modifier attribute, but it's its own attribute, right? So we know if 99 strength, that increases balance, that increases body checking. So what's an easier way to view that? Like, okay, so I know I have 99 strength and 70 body checking. What's my body checking then, right?
I think that what we could do is so like the 5 fundamentals of like hockey. One of the things that really pisses me off when trying to do the worst card thing, as well as the best card, is the same thing I deal with all year round when I have the best team. There's no differentiator.
Yeah.
I don't notice new cards because going up against all the other good cards, there's no differences. There's nothing that makes like there was a few cards this year that Ulf Samuelson and Adam Foote at launch of the game. Dude, that was just
pretty good.
fun.
Yeah.
Like it was straight up just fun. McDavid. for the most part. Like it's just exceptionally faster than everyone else. Goal post to post on Carey Price. Like there was a few things that really, really felt different, but then for everyone else, it's just like they're just cards. Like you could have no face on them, and it would be exactly the same, which is what sucks. Because like in MLB, stances are different, so the swings are different. Some have like are slower, faster. Well, I think that they say that there's no difference, but like there's a reason why some people can hit like can't hit it out of the park with someone who has 100 power, and it's like consensus across the board. Something's wrong. Like their swing is just not good for them, and why some people excel so much with certain cards and can't with others, right? Whereas like in NHL, like I think that hitting would be one if they can actually bump people off the puck, not bump people off the puck and knock them down. Shooting, speed, and then I don't even know what else. Like I think those are the only three things.
I don't think puck control is as important.
It's like those three things. Because once you get to like over 85 offensive awareness, they won't drop the puck on a pass.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? If you go and if you don't know what we mean, go and use a bronze team or a couple of bronze cards and try pass between them. They will like lose the puck momentarily before they actually gain control of it. And it's infuriating to play with if you're trying to. So if you don't have good offensive awareness, it's very important, but it only lasts like, once you're at 85, everyone just receives a pass, right?
Yeah.
I
mean, that's just the fundamental issue in Hockey Ultimate Team, though, is like just the attribute differentiation.
And no one knows what they mean.
Yeah, and it's like Gretzky's the greatest passer of all time, but he can only go up to 99 passing. So.
But then we get into like NHL hits or like some like arcade superpower thing where like, and hockey's a very serious mode, right? Like, would you like that? Like,
what, like a NHL hits?
No, like you said that Gretzky goes to 99, right?
Yeah.
But like everyone else can go to 99. So like, how would you differentiate him from other people?
Either an ability, right, with an X factor. I think that's the easiest one. I mean, I think MLB's model is like perfect with a 125 scale, and then just re-tinkering with the overall formula, right? So like, if Gretzky's a 99 overall, he doesn't have to have 99 body checking, right? He doesn't have to have 99. Yager's one that always stood out to me. He never took a slap shot in the NHL, maybe like twice. But no matter what, he has 95 wrist shot power and accuracy and 95 slap shot power and accuracy. That wasn't what he did, right?
Dude.
Like, why can't he have 99 wrist shot and 70 slap shot?
One of the things I really enjoy about some of the content MLB is that they'll release out different types of cards. So, like, let's say we'll use Miguel Cabrera as a perfect example. So Miguel Cabrera could get his live series card and what he is right now, which is like a silver. He's not very good. He's not nearly any good anymore as what he used to be. But then they have like award cards where it's like from his award-winning season when he won the Triple Crown, his stats indicate as if you were playing with that player. But then they also have the Miguel Cabrera rookie card where it's like he was a lot fat. His speed was way higher than what it was in his big years where he barely, he didn't run at all. Speed's way higher. His contact is not as high. His power is not as high, but maybe his fielding is way better. Like those, like, dude, there's none of that. None of it. Like,
they try to indicate that
with those those plays
like
of the
those flashbacks or like something else, right?
The
like
plays
they'll
of the
have
year.
Yeah, there's some cards that they try to do that on, but no matter what, it's always built off what the base attribute is on the gold card from right now, right? So if you have like Eric Carlson, for example, and you go back to like a flashback from his like, I don't know, let's say his rookie year, his defensive awareness should be a 65 and his speed should be a 98, but you can't do that because his base version defensive awareness is 86, right?
Yeah, and they have to arbitrarily make it whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix the overall system unless they go to a 125 system.
Or even a 110 or something, right?
Just more that they're allowed to do.
It's something. Or just reserve, like we talked about it last year, the year before, we made a YouTube video together with like the scale, right? Like no matter what, Connor McDavid's the only one that can get to 99 speed. No matter what, Patrick Kane's the only one that can get to 99 hands.
Yep. I think that would be that'd be super cool. Yeah,
I mean, dude, I watched GWC on Saturday and I was like, I can play some NHL. Sunday, I loaded into 2 Hut Champs games.
Let's go.
And it was fun for a little bit. I played 2 games, both of the people quit, but like, there's nothing to play on it right now. Everybody's 99. Every card plays the same way.
That's the issue. There is no differentiator. So like doing
Yeah, but that's the fun thing about watching GWC is that
yes,
Crosby's Crosby on that ice. McDavid looks like McDavid. The third line looks like a third line.
dude,
I go in the hut, and it's just like, whoever has a card now is 99.
dude. When Gren, there was a couple plays where Gren was playing Aves, and it was like Aves had like, I don't know, like Damon Severson on the back end, and he got a hold that. There was one sequence where McDavid blew by everyone down the wing. He got a save on a breakaway, and Aves went all the way back. Gren didn't switch players, kept McDavid, went straight down, was able to catch back up to him, lift his stick, and steal the puck, and I was like, oh my god, dude, like
Hey, I've been watching some of the playoffs. It's kind of realistic
it
with how
is,
he's
yeah,
playing, right?
yeah, exactly. It's just like I was like, this is cool, yeah, like, but in hockey ultimate, not just hockey ultimate team, it's a marketing mode. People will not buy players if they are the same overall at the start of the game as they will at the end of the game. You won't like, and maybe people that are savvy, you would like, we would, right? We would understand it, but like as a general consensus, if they release an 87 overall card in January, oh my god, what am I gonna do with this 87 overall card? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Even though like the highest card's like a 91, you wouldn't care because of like you always need more. It's always more. It's always more. It's always more. And that's just how it works. Like it's an easy way to sell money in packs. I have an idea for you.
Huh.
So, thinking about more about NHL content and just improving upon it, making something more exciting. One thing I think NHL does really well is the event system, in the sense that every 2 weeks, everyone stops on Friday and either goes to Twitch streams or Reddit or Fosto's Twitter account. Like it all stops to find out what the new event is and the new master sets. And I think that that's overlooked by a lot of people because maybe you're disappointed and a lot of the times you don't like it. Nonetheless, your attention is there, which is something that I think NHL does very well. When it comes to MLB, there's a lot less frequency in their content drops in terms of like new cards. But when it happens, it hits hard. Like it's very good. Whereas NHL, every Friday, and even not every other Friday with new events, it's like every Friday essentially. Like everything stops, and they need to focus on that. So what I was thinking was like, okay, like how do you make it even better than that? How could they just add something in that'd be great for the player base, and it would be feasible because EA would make money. Okay, because like you have to think like that. Like they won't just put something in EA's EA, right? It's not like what I
Yeah.
mean. It has to have a bottom thing. Another thing MLB does that's great is they release old cards, whether it be old tops moments where it's like old team of the week cards essentially. But man, NHL. When I was thinking about this best and worst cards of 22, I'm like, man, I have like a Mount Rushmore of hut cards. I have my own personal one, and I'm sure that everyone does back in the day and throughout the years. But could you imagine every Friday, one card gets released back into the player pool, and you can only acquire it through packs because I think that again, people be like, oh, we know. I think that in the grand scheme of things, there should be guaranteed rewards everywhere else. Okay,
Yeah.
there should be. All right, so let's pretend that happens, even though it won't. Let's pretend that happens. Much like an MLB, headliners come out every Friday, and it's a new headliner, it's a new special card. Like this week was like a prime Jared Weaver. So Jared Weaver at the height of his prime. Okay, and you can only get it through packs. And could you imagine like Friday comes and they release the I guess it'd be hard. One of mine is like the 99 the very first year of the fantasy cards of Brady Kachuk. He was a master
Yeah.
set. So it'd be hard to do that because he was like a 90. He eventually became a 99. But let's do another one of mine, the Lit versus Grit Miro Heiskanen. That card was on my
I
team
remember
for
that
like
card. Yeah.
4 months, right? So imagine that Friday comes, you have the new event, whatever, everyone's hyped, but then like there's this new card, this new Miro Heiskanen Lit versus Grit 90 overall card that you can acquire. It does a couple things. One, the interest is at its peak already from the new event, but you also drive interest to see like old cards from like prior years. That's way higher interest as well. Two, you're going to get more people to try and rip packs or at least save their packs for that day to try and pull this card. Three, if you actually pull it, you have a card that meant something to pull. This is not I pulled a 94 in February and it's worth 70K. This is like the only way you could acquire this card is by pulling it. And, it's only in packs for a week. Like, let's say they're only in packs for a week. And they're not overpowered because you can release these cards at the same rate as which they were kind of released in the prior games, right?
Yeah, so like that lit versus grit would be released early
On
on.
the
Yeah.
early on, right? I'm trying to think of some
Yeah.
other examples. That NHL 20, the classic Rasmus Dahlin would be another one for me. It's
That was a
always
big one, yeah.
defensemen early on because
Yeah.
defensemen either have really bad shooting or they're not fast because of like
Yeah.
the defensive stats are always higher. So a master set defenseman early on is usually fast and has a decent shot, and it's like really noticeable. So that was just like my idea, and it's like you already have the rights to this because they're in the prior game. All you have to do is re-upload. What is the?
Yeah, and unless it was like an alumni player that isn't signed anymore, right?
But even then, I would assume that their rights are still like. I guess because technically you'd be making money now,
Yeah, yeah. But
but
like just the ones that you have, because most of the players, like most of the cards in Hut, besides like a rookie that maybe just started this year, they've been in Hut for years.
man, like I just really think that that's like a. I would love to hear the debate from EA to not do that.
I think it's a good idea because I think it's like the people that have a nostalgic feeling for some of these cards. You can go back years too,
Yeah,
right?
dude.
Like last 6, 7 years.
Movember Ovechkin or whatever, no Crosby or whatever one talks it.
Everybody,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody loved those cards. Yeah, it'd be cool to see. I would like it.
Could you think of one off the top of your head?
I really, dude, and that's the thing. That's the problem with like I think what we do. Like I know you have a few examples. I'm never really tied to cards like that. I really like the trade. I think it was trade deadline Yager. 2 years ago, there was like a '97 Yager that came out. That was pretty cool.
I don't
It
remember
was
that.
like he was on the Bruins, I believe.
I
It was
don't
when he was
remember him.
traded from the. Yeah, yeah, I liked him a lot. But other than that, I'm never really like. I
I
don't know.
guess, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong with me.
No, no, no. I'm in the same way. When you have all the best cards, you don't appreciate them the same. Like
Yeah.
I think something that has been that I'm definitely I've taken notice of in terms of just like content engagement. Like no money spent is the best way to for YouTubers as a whole. If you want to start making NHL content, no money spent is what everyone wants to watch because it's the most relatable. I
So
like
I actually am glad you brought that up
yeah.
because
Go
I was
ahead.
thinking like, oh, what am I going to do for NHL 23? I was thinking about just doing that for the year.
I will be putting I will still be doing what I normally do, but what I normally do is I double down. I spend like everyone wants to see the best cards, so like that's something that like I like doing. I like having all the best cards, so people can hum in the stream or my YouTube channel and be like, okay, let's watch Mario Lemieux at launch of the game with Gretzky and X Factor McDavid, right? Like no one else has this, so like that's a huge plus for me. But what I then do is like I do all the squad battles, all the rivals on my team to make it like this super duper uber team, and then
Yeah.
it's like oh, okay. And then if I were to go and do a no money spent, which I started this year, it's like, dude, I don't have the energy to do this again. And it's much more necessary to do that on a no money spent team as opposed to a money spent team. So what I will be doing is I will be spending my money and having my God squad. But then that is it. I will then be spending almost 80% of my time on my no money spent team because I want to know what it's like again.
Mhm.
I mean, it's easy to talk about here are the best cards and this is what you should do. How do you make coins? And there's another thing of actually doing it, right? So I think that like that is something that is definitely going to be my main focus, and you'll definitely
Now
go
you're
ahead.
allowed to get the pre-order bonuses and the pre-order packs on the no money spent team, right?
That is a hot topic for debate. I'm actually not going to do that. A true no money
Okay.
spent is you bought the standard edition, and there you go.
This is
So
like the Nuzlocke Pokemon
yeah,
run right
yeah,
here.
yeah. No, because a lot of people be like, dude, because if you pull something in there, like that's just kind of the player who picks up the standard edition. It's like I'm no money spent. It's like, dude, well, I didn't get that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But showing people then like how to go is definitely the way I think is how I want to tackle NHL 23.
From the
Um,
content side, though, what is the best? Because like that's what I was thinking about the last few days. Like, oh, I'm probably going to do that. Like, it's probably more fun. My chances of winning the GWC are like extremely low, so it doesn't. And I can always get a good team anyway. No money spent.
mhm.
Is that like an episodic content, right? Like, is it
Yeah,
like, no money spent, like episode 23,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Like
Okay,
that's how you would do it. Yeah,
that's
and
how I. Okay,
But yeah, like that's something that I'm gonna focus a lot on, and then spending money on the team. Definitely, I would still do that on my other squad on my PlayStation 1 or whatever it is, and then we'll see. But yeah, definitely going to go that route, and I think that you'll appreciate cards way more. I think we're
yeah,
desensitized to it. I'll admit that. Like the only way people ask me is like, "Yo, does that card feel good?" The only time I can tell is if they're either really bad or really good
yeah.
because it's so hard to be noticeable. Like when a card's not good, I notice it immediately because all of my other cards are deemed good, right?
Mhm.
So I'm excited for that, and excited to start the content for that. Was there anything else I want to talk about?
Oh, did you have anything else written down?
Some of the best cards this year. Give me a couple. I'm doing a best card bracket as well. I haven't started yet,
Yeah.
but
I think whenever the game came out, McDavid X Factor was just like leagues ahead of everybody else.
is exceptional. Yeah.
Yeah. I also liked the X Factor Crosby for the first 2 months. He was really fun to
Dude,
use.
I was like, dude,
Um,
Crosby's not it.
dude, whenever the game first came
Yeah.
out, he was really good.
Yep.
It's just like everybody else caught up. Are there any other cards I liked? Like, there's
Evo
always those
Duchesne.
tall. I didn't see. I avoided him, and I'm glad I did because by the time GWC came around, like everybody was 99. But I think for a while, Evo Duchesne was like
That's
just it
yeah.
was insane,
It was
insane,
it was
right?
absurd. Yeah.
Um, there were the cards we invested in. Morgan Riley, the Evo
And
one, but we didn't use him. That was
McCann,
more McCann. So he's up there. I would say that was probably my favorite card.
Zetterberg
Because
team builder.
that was really good. Foot and Samuelson,
Yeah.
which you mentioned. Team Builder Primo, whenever the 98 came out.
Yeah.
That was the best card at that point, I believe.
Team of the year Hedman. The shut that
That's
the 1T Hedman. Yeah.
Oh, the team of the season one, right? That was the team of the season, Hedman.
The one
With
the team of the year is January.
Yeah, so I was saying team of the season I thought was better because it had the gold 1T.
Does it? Yeah, I'm tripping.
Yeah.
Oh.
Team of the year had gold shutdown.
That was it. Yeah. That was that was a dark time.
It was so overpowered because everybody had him.
Yeah.
Right? And he was out there for 40 minutes a game.
Yeah. X Factor price.
Yeah, post to post, right?
Yeah, goal post to post for a while was it. That X Factor carry price was something else. That's fun. That's gonna be a fun one too. I'm curious to see what, because again, I'm putting all the cards together, but I'm not voting or trying to direct it in any way. So I'm excited to see what everyone, as many people as possible.
Shane's gonna win, I hope, right? Because I want to say like 3,000 people every single day were like, oh, Duchesne scored, and then every single time he scored, it was like Twitter would go off like, oh, he's a 97 now.
I loved it because EA, dude, that is my favorite event. I said it when it came in this out. That has been my favorite event since it came into play because EA has no control. They can't do anything.
I think somebody went to a Preds game and held up like a sign like, oh, he's a 99 or something now. Like they had like a sign at I'm pretty sure I saw it on like the Hut subreddit.
Dude, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about our top 5. Let's do our top 5. Yeah.
Top 5 single player games, right?
Top 5. We talked a lot about NHL today, by the way. Good for us.
Almost all NHL.
Good for us.
That was a rare one. Yeah.
All right, let us know in the comments if you like that every once in a while, if that's what we should stick to, and you just don't like our lives. Let's do our top 5 single player games of all time. Do you want to set some parameters for this?
Yeah, I would like to set some parameters. So these were what are the parameters? Did we have?
I will say what mine are. No, but so this is what I want to say. Like when defending your list. So mine is the ones I spent the most amount of time in, whether it be replaying or like meticulously going through it to making sure I got everything. It wasn't just I played it once. Game was very good and like it's one of the best games I've ever played. This is like. The games that like sucked my life apart when I played them, and that was it. And it was very difficult to come up with 5. There's a few that I would like to. And whenever we do these, I think I put too much value on nostalgia, but it was such a different era because like when we were kids, single player game was all we had.
Well, that's the thing. Going through this is like all these games were at least 10 years ago at the least. My
latest is I guess maybe it's about 10 years ago. And that just goes to show like what the state of single player games are now.
Yeah, the only rule I did was it could only be one game per series. So like I couldn't have like multiple Grand Theft Auto games or like whatever else. Yep. So that's what I did. And there was only one game in here that maybe I didn't spend as much time in, but it was like a very linear story driven game that I replayed multiple times.
Any special or close or what's the word here? Special mentions.
What is that?
Special mention?
Honorable mentions. Yeah. Wow, dude, we're terrible at this.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I didn't have any. You know what? There's an honorable mention for some indie games that I really loved. Like I played Journey on PS3. I don't know if you remember that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was like it was like a 4 hour game that's like one of my favorite games ever, but I didn't include that here because it's like a 4 hour. It's like watching
Yeah.
like a TV show.
The
Um,
the reason why I mentioned this is because it's not one of my best five favorite games. There was literally no way I tried to. There's no way for it to knock any of these five out for me. But I just saw in the PlayStation Store. So PlayStation Plus is doing this thing where it's like doing what Xbox does, where you can go back and play old Xbox games, which PlayStation
mhm.
should really do because PlayStation is a huge library before Xbox even existed with PlayStation One, and I grew up playing PlayStation One, and someone posted on this gaming website a picture of the store and what it's going to look like in Hong Kong, and it showed the girl from Aloy from Horizon, which is a phenomenal, very very good game. And the other one was like the console or the catalog, and it showed Regina from Dino Crisis, which is like Dino Crisis 1 and 2. I remember playing with my friend, like it was single player, but we would try and beat it together because
Yeah.
we were like 8 and 9 years old. Was one of the most fun, captivating. It was like Resident Evil with dinosaurs, essentially.
It
I
was
don't.
very difficult, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't
it
that the
was
thing
not
about the okay.
puzzle driven. You had to, there was mixing of like plants to like make like healing things. A lot like it looked, and the interface looks a lot like Resident Evil.
Hmm.
But man, is was it such a great game? Just played so much of it, so wanted to make sure that was in there. But yeah, all right,
All right,
you
yeah,
kick
I'll
it off.
begin then. So number one, or I guess number five, I don't know, no particular order.
Yeah.
So I'll go with BioShock
Okay.
on Xbox 360 and PS3.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I went over like it was like freshman year at high school. I went over to my friend's house and he was playing this game and I hadn't like heard of it. I got sucked in, borrowed the game from him, played through it a couple times. Um, Amazing story. There was like the little like gotcha thing at the end. The what do they call those in like suspense movies?
Oh,
The
like a
the
tricky.
not the cliffhanger. The
I have no dude. We are awful. It's like our
we're
brains
so
are.
bad.
It's like our
Yeah, I
brains are
know. We
falling
were
down the
good for
stairs.
50 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a twist. It had a
Twist.
good twist. It had a good twist at the end. But I love BioShock. Did you play that at
Dude,
all?
I have some movies and video games that are embarrassing to say I've never done. BioShock, I wouldn't say is one of them, but BioShock was big enough and I just avoided it. I don't know why.
Well, dude, you never watched Goodfellas, which I was
That
like
was,
shocked
yeah, I had
about.
never seen Goodfellas, which is,
Yeah.
crazy. And I love like The Sopranos, but I just
Yeah.
watched The Sopranos like in my new house so like a year and a half ago maybe.
Yeah.
So like there's just some movies like Ghostbusters, never seen it. Um all right, I'm gonna start with the game that the latest game like of the my on my list is The Last of Us.
Okay.
It could be one or two. I think two runs on too long. Two, dude. There's like, have you ever played The Last of Us?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I
Have you
played
played both?
both of them. Yeah,
Okay,
I played both. I didn't finish two,
okay, dude.
unintentionally.
In number two, there was like 7 spots as you got in further where you're like, okay, this could be the end. Where like it's just like, we're gonna fast forward 2 months,
That's what happened to
bro.
me.
It was
So
like
I got to a point, and then I'm like, oh, this is only halfway through the game. This has been 10 hours.
they in which I give them credit for because now games are all whatever multiplayer battle royale like whatever can get keep attention spans fat. The art of a single player game is just not really there anymore, and which is why I think a lot of this on our list is going to be older games. But The Last of Us, the second one, was an incredible story. But it did. There was sections you could have just completely wiped out and made it 10 hours less because I want to say it was like a 40-hour game.
It was a lot because I didn't finish it, and I really liked the first one. The thing I liked about The Last of Us 2, it made a lot of people angry for no reason.
Hmm.
So that's why I liked it. A lot of like the incels and stuff.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. There's
Um,
a woman in my game. What
yeah,
is this?
yeah, and she's like gigantic and can kick the shit out of
Yeah.
people. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah. Not in my video game.
No, but it had a pretty incredible story. I think number one though, is a pretty generational story game. I remember
Hmm.
I played it. I didn't even play it on PS3. I got my PS4, and it was a launch item with PS4 to get the upgraded, like remastered
Yeah.
version. Like that came out probably like I would assume like 3 or 4 years later. Played it.
Hmm.
It was one of the first games on my PS4 I got, and I was just like, dude, like it's hard. It's hard nowadays with the attention span of not just like younger people, but like us. Like our attention spans are much different than that they were, and it
Yeah.
was just like hooked. Like you can't like it's like a good book. Like bro, like
I think it has one of the best endings too, where it's like, I mean, we could talk about spoilers for The Last of Us, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
All right, that's but yeah,
Yeah.
like with he loves her so much, like he's like, yeah, f the world, like
Yeah.
I don't want her to die to save the world, like I care about this kid. That was a really powerful ending.
It was very good. Very, very
Yeah.
powerful. Your turn?
Yeah. So my next one, I'll go GTA San Andreas for number 4. I
That
am gonna
is
rank these as I go.
that's one of mine.
Yeah, and I love the new Grand Theft Autos. They don't have the same nostalgic feeling as the old ones. And then comparing like 3, so they'd always be at like the same, right? 3 to Vice City to San Andreas. San Andreas just had the most stuff in the game, and it's the one I played the most. Um, and dude, it's just like I think the culture, right? Learning about things as a kid through a video game, like you hear like just different things, and you're like exposed to all this like humor, funny stuff in it, and it's just like Grand Theft Auto is amazing. So I'll go San Andreas.
There's a couple moments in my remember how we talked about when we talked about like our favorite songs or albums, and
Yeah.
like the real way to distinguish what your favorite songs are is like tied to like moments. I talked about that. Like there's a few times in games, like there's a couple games that I can think of that might not be my favorite games, but like I remember seeing Grand Theft Auto 3 for the first time. It was at this like my first girlfriend in like grade 6 or whatever. Like went to her house and her brother was playing on a PlayStation 2 and I was like, dude, these guys are rich. And
Yeah.
and I remember seeing Grand Theft Auto 3 and being like, dude, this is real life.
This is a video game.
how
How
are
is this
you
possible?
how are you getting out of your car and running away? Like I'm used to Driver where like in PlayStation 1 you just in the car, you couldn't get out. And so like it's funny you brought up the nostalgia thing, but so I put Grand Theft Auto 5 on the list first because I
Okay.
think Grand Theft Auto 5, the way they reinvented the story and it's told through 3 people is incredible, like well done because it's 3 separate characters you're following along that are very different. But San Andreas, dude, like the car customization, the little things, like I remember on my original Xbox, I could put we were talking about albums, and I remember
Yeah.
like mesmerized by System of a Down. I put onto my Xbox and went to the custom radio station. I were driving around listening to every single song of that album in my car on San Andreas, and then like yeah, like it just was leaps and bounds above any open world game at the time. Like it wasn't even close, and it was huge.
Yeah.
Like I
It was
wonder.
humongous. You could have your properties. Like I remember having a
Yep.
airfield, right? Like you
Yep.
have like that hangar that you can park planes in and stuff. Like
Dude,
it was,
like
and I always forget about the car customization too,
mhm,
like with like the low riders or like the spinners and
mhm.
stuff, the spinning rims.
They
Like,
look awful, but like
yeah,
still.
but that was just like a part of the game that they had in there.
I think I would be willing to bet a lot of people if you went back in time, they don't remember the third section of it because most kids I feel like would play through the first part, like Grove City or whatever, get to like the country part of it, and then wouldn't even get to like the metropolis part, which is like the third
They
act.
wouldn't get to San Francisco and then like Vegas
It's like
too, which was
40
like
or
another
50
island.
hours in.
Yeah,
Like it's so long, right? Like because I vaguely remember the last portion of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and to be honest, I don't even remember the ending.
okay,
But I probably finished the game once or twice, but I played it
yeah.
1,000 hours because I would just restart and just like, it was just definitely a generational game. So, all right, so you did that one. I'll go next. That was also on my list. San Andreas is on my list. Um, I will go. Man, my last 3 are like the 3. I'll go Mass Effect 2. So, I remember being I was playing NHL when I was like it was in grade 10 or 11 and I was like, man, I want a new story game. I've
Yeah.
been grinding Halo 2. I don't think Halo 3 had come out yet. And I remember going on IGN when their site was like way different. And I'm just like, I need a new game to be excited about. And Mass Effect had just launched. And I remember being excited about Mass Effect, learning all about it, and then playing the first one and just being like, dude, it's a very good world and like the whole concept of it is incredible. And what's weird is that it's not entirely unplausible. Like it's not. So again, for anyone that doesn't know, Mass Effect is basically we become a spacefaring race. We find this artifact on Mars, and it allows us to it advances our society about 400 years, and we discover the mass relay and in the Milky Way, and the mass relays are these things that can send you from one mass relay to another galaxies and galaxies away, and then eventually they run into the Citadel, which is basically the center of the universe, where like it's like the UN.
Yeah.
And then there ends up being the main enemy called the Reapers, which are these like sentient beings that are like robotic, but they every 50,000 years wipe out the galaxy. They wipe out the entire universe, and all that's left are these little remnants of like the past. And they do it every 50,000 years because they feed. That's how they, they basically wipe out humanity, and then so they feed themselves, and then they go back into the dark space, and they just are gone. And like, dude, like that's a terrifying thing. We just advance far enough, and like that's why there's like ruins that no one can explain. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, like it just the story is incredible. Mass Effect 1 was very the combat was very blocky and like stiff. But very very good. Mass Effect 2 is like, you customize your ship. The endings, it's not something that BioWare does incredibly well. I believe it was BioWare that made Mass Effect. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, is like you say yes to this one guy, and 15 hours later that impacts the scenario that you get later on in the game. Was
That was
so well done.
your choices and your save files from the prior games transferred over to the
Yes.
next game, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was one of the
I
ones where it did that.
I never played the games, but one of my best friends was like the biggest Mass Effect
Mm-hmm.
like fan ever. He replayed them probably 10 times
Mm-hmm.
each, right? So like I always like he was my roommate in college and he would always like be playing that or something.
Yeah, and like at the beginning of like 2, if you didn't play number 1, there was like a comic that you could flip through and kind of make the bigger decisions. But there were some things that you could not. That were very small, but like you get different side quests and whatnot if you had played 1 all the way through, which was just
Yeah.
so well done. And then Mass Effect 2, again, just the amount of ship customization, the amount of, and the story was really well done. The third one kind of falls apart because you're basically under siege the whole time. Like you're
Yeah.
like the war is here of like the Reapers are all here. But spoiler alert, Mass Effect 2 is one of the is close to like the perfect single player game for me.
Okay. My next one, we go Pokemon Silver. I had to pick a Pokemon game.
Fuck, I didn't do that.
Yeah, I know. Actually, it was a late ad. I removed something. And I think the Silver generation, Gold and Silver, is probably what I spent the most time on. And that was just, dude, Pokemon took over the world, right? Like everybody at school was playing it. Everybody was collecting the cards. And I think that one, just having both of the regions in Silver was pretty great.
I'm gonna take off The Last of Us and put in Pokemon Gold.
Okay. Okay.
For
We have the
whatever
same generation of Pokemon games, but
yeah, I viewed single player game as like a cinematic like story kind of thing. But if you're including a single player game, Pokemon, yeah, like I don't think there's another franchise where I put in more time than Pokemon in my life.
besides NHL.
Now maybe I guess. I mean I guess technically the last 45 days
Yeah.
probably makes up almost 1,000 hours of playing a game.
Yeah.
But yeah, gold and silver. I was reading this review list of like the best Pokemon games, and gold and silver by far, technically like heart gold and soul silver, where like they get all of the updates and like of animations.
Yeah.
But like, dude, I remember at the time, yeah, like when you're finished with it, it was an unbelievable amount of stuff to do, because then you just start over red and blue again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
And
believe
it was
that,
just like a quicker version of it, but like still like just like, oh wait, there's that whole other side. Like I'm going back to what I just played 2 or 3 years ago. That's just
and
crazy.
it
That concept.
culminates with you playing Ash.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
level
right. So you're playing like
100s, like,
like you're the character that you played as, I guess, in the first game.
yep.
And he
No.
has like, like level 81 Pikachu.
Fun story about
Yeah.
that. So again, gaming moment that I can remember in my life. I very remember. I'm 9, I guess, maybe 99. I'm born in 90, so I think it was 99, maybe 2000 for gold and silver. I don't remember. But I had just gotten a Game Boy Color, and obviously Pokemon wasn't Red and Blue was not a color you could play it on. My very first Game Boy, I got given to me by a kid down the street, and I could play Red and Blue on my old silver Game Boy. I thought it was the
Yeah.
most insane thing ever. It was awesome. But then my dad bought me a Game Boy Color, and I played like Mario and some other things. The Star Wars pod racing on my Game Boy Color. But I remember calling my dad. My grandma would watch me all the time, and I called my dad and I said, "Hey, they just came out with like Pokemon Gold." I'm like trying to do that kid thing where I'm like explaining it to him all about him, even though he doesn't care. And I'm just like, could I get it? And my dad was like, we'll see. I don't know. So I went downstairs and I was like, Grandma. I told my grandma. I was like, what? I'm like, what does Dad need done? Like, and whatever. So she convinced me to like, I think it was like, I want to say like rake the leaves or like clean up the front yard. So I spent like 3 hours cleaning the front. I'm like, dude, I'm like 10, right? So it's not
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? I did a lot of work. And I got upstairs and I didn't ask my dad for anything, but like I was like, you know what? Maybe this would improve my chances. So I guess my grandma had called my dad. So this is like 9:30 at night. I'm getting ready for bed, like it's my bedtime. I'm sitting there, and my dad walks in. He goes, "Hey, you did a great job in the front yard." And he throws me gold, and I like lost my mind. So then, on top of that, now I also remember my dad had like a Pontiac Grand Prix, and I washed it for him too. So then he comes back into my room and he's like, "Hey, you did a great job on the car too." And I was like, "Thanks, Dad." Like, "Yeah, no problem, no problem." He tossed me silver. And then I lost my mind, bro. Like I remember being like, dude, I'm like 10 years old and I just got 2 brand new
Yeah.
video games. I was like, oh my god, I can like trade with myself and get all of them. Like I just remember losing my mind. I know it's like one of my happiest memories of my old man. Like I don't
Oh,
know.
dude, nothing will match that as an adult, you
No,
know?
and like my dad's like a hard ass. Like if I wanted
Yeah.
something, he'd be like, no. Like and
Yeah.
it's just like it was a rare moment of generosity, and I won't ever forget that. So,
That's
Pokemon, yeah.
awesome.
Last of Us is out. Silver's in, or gold. Gold. I was a gold boy.
Yeah.
Okay, I will go. Oh, is it your turn or my turn?
I just went. I don't know if you have 2 more left or 3
Yeah, I
more.
have 2 more.
Okay.
I will go with Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic for the original Xbox.
Fair enough. I didn't get into that game until too late, and it was just too dated. But it was amazing, right?
You could still. They're doing a remake of it.
Yeah.
Which for anyone that has never played KOTOR, I am super jealous because you're gonna get to play the remake version of it, and
That's what I'm gonna do.
it is gonna be awfully fun. It has take away Star Wars, like just take away Star Wars. It has one of the craziest stories lines that like there's a twist. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it is something that you do not anticipate. It is not teased. It is like very well thought out, and the story is just incredible. And then it's the best era of Star Wars. Like they're starting to actually make content for it now, like movies and books and whatnot. But the old Republic era is basically, you know how like in Clone Wars, like there's just way more Jedi than there are evil Jedi.
Yeah.
Like there's way more Jedi, but then there's like the Emperor or whatever, right? In the old
Mhm.
Republic era, it's like there's like thousands of dark Sith lords that just like are able to use the Force. So it's like just imagine like like what the Clone Wars was like, only it's all Jedi and Sith. So like it's just a very 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 good era. And then like you got your own ship, the
It
crew.
has one of the cooler looking like bad guys. What's the guy's name with like the he has like a
Revan,
like is
Revan.
that it?
Yeah, it's either Revan or Malik. I can't remember. I mixed them
Okay.
up because there's
All
two of
right.
them. But yeah, they're very, very, very cool. They're releasing I believe it's a book or maybe it's I heard rumors that the next trilogy is not in the Star Wars saga, like because the Star Wars saga is done. That the Old Republic is supposed to be the next trilogy. So
That's good.
yeah, I'm excited for that. And it is. I've beaten it maybe twice. Same thing as San Andreas as a kid. Put in thousands of hours into playing it because there was so much to do to get like that perfect. It was very hard to get. It was essentially made by the same company. Essentially, Mass Effect choices mattered, but back then, like it was crazy how much the choices mattered. And like then you could be a
Yeah.
dark Jedi or a good one. You be a Jedi, or you could be Han Solo and just be really good with guns. You got a crew, and you could make them do whatever you want them to do. Like very very good. But all right, your next
So
one.
I'm looking forward to the remaster
Same,
then.
dude. It's gonna be
My
good.
next one, I'll go Super Mario 64.
Okay.
One of the best like platforming games ever. Like that first 3D Mario. I just remember, dude, I would play it every single day after school when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and like I always had a friend that came over. We would play that. I think the design of that game makes it the best Mario game. I think some of the newer ones are probably better from a gameplay standpoint, like Odyssey and stuff, but that one just has like that nostalgia factor for me.
Again, like I never got an N64. It's like the only console I've never owned, and I
Okay.
feel like I missed out on so much. And like Mario 64 and stuff like that is like up there with like games that I really missed that I didn't get to play. Because like and same with like
Yeah.
James Bond, I played at my friend's house, but like I
Yeah.
never
Oh,
got
like
to.
the GoldenEye one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like because that's like an all timer, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, like okay, fair enough. Mario game. My number one. This is my number one greatest game I've ever played, and that's Metal Gear Solid. Um,
The first one.
yeah, I like the one
Okay.
for PlayStation. They did a remake for GameCube, which was pretty good, but took away a lot of like originality and sound and whatnot of it. But I was too young to understand the overarching story because it's very political. Like
Mhm.
very like you know what I mean? Like it's way above you know a 7-year-old's grasp of like the world. But man, gaming moments, dude. Like it was so hard in the pre-internet era. Like there was
Yeah.
still the internet, but it was not consumer level. Like I didn't have a computer until I was like 10, right? So this is like 98, and there was only word of mouth. So like I remember me and my two buddies that I played with all the time. We got stuck 2 hours into the game. Every time we would restart and try and figure it out, and we'd play the game again. We'd be like, oh, okay, we'd explore everything. And there's this part where the DARPA people that are listening remember this is a part where we have to find the DARPA chief, and we couldn't figure out how to get into his like cell. And it's literally you have to plant a C4 on a discolored wall. And this is pre-internet era.
Yeah.
You have eight
Yeah.
year olds. There's no way to figure that out and like the logic of it. And like I remember, I'll never forget this guy named Curtis. He's 1 year older than us. He sat down. He's like, dude, that wall looks different. And we sat there. We shot at it. We fired a rocket launcher at it. Like nothing. But like you planted C4 on it. Bang. Opened up, dude. We lost it. Like finally figured it out. Then there was way other things that were so ahead of its time, dude. Like there was a fight against a boss that could read your mind. And if you had the memory card in, it would spit out like he's like, I see that you love like going fast or racing cars and like because you had driver saved on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the only way to beat him, and because he would anticipate, he would show up wherever you moved if you just played against him. And the only way to beat him is with the controller into the second port so that he couldn't read where you were going. And it's like, dude, like back then, it's like, what in the world? Like how you figure that out? And then the story on top of it, there's a part where you get stuck and it's like, I'll never forget this most blockbuster moment of all time. I had to rent the game because my parents didn't want to. My dad is right when my parents got divorced. My dad was someone who would not spend money on anything. My mom would buy me whatever I want. But like I live with my dad, and I remember having to rent Metal Gear. And there's this part where you have to call the chief, who is like the guy who's helping you throughout the whole story. You have to call his niece because she's like infiltrated the thing too, and she's the one messing with everyone as well, but you don't see her. She's like, you got to call the chief. He's like, I don't remember her codec number. Use the back of the game case. I believe it's there. And literally on the back of the game case, it shows you talking to Meryl. And that was how you found out the codec number that you had to call to advance in the game. Dude, and it's like little things like that you could never have because of the information era and like in like the internet now.
Well, what would happen if you didn't have the like? Because
so, dude, I got stuck for an entire week. I wasted my entire rental because I had a blockbuster case. So what I convinced my dad to do was to take me to EB. I think it was called Electronic Boutique at the time. So I go look at the new copy. And actually, it was Walmart. I went to Walmart, turned it around, wrote it down, put it back home, and went back home.
Oh my god,
That's
awesome though.
I
remember reading. Like I didn't play Metal Gear Solid 1. My cousin played the game. And I remember watching him play the game, and it was just too advanced for me because I think I was like 5 or 6 when it came out.
It was advanced,
and I couldn't. Yeah, because like at that time, I would like play like the first level and I couldn't do anything. And then like Siphon Filter was also out at that time, and it was just a little too advanced for me.
Siphon
like
Filter.
I could like kind of play like the first level or two, and then that was it.
Yep.
But I didn't realize how intense like
there's a lot.
I remember hearing about the memory card thing. I think I saw that on like an old G4 show or something. But the code on the back of the box
there is
cool.
a part in the game that is probably one of the hardest things to do. I would love to try it now, where you're getting tortured, you're in a torture chamber, and it can dramatically changes what happens at the end of the game. You get tortured, and eventually you have to like give in. And then you get taken away, and like before you give in and whatever, you get like rescued by Meryl. But if you survive the torture chamber, you get a dramatically different reward at the end of the game and a different ending. And this person, one of the main people, don't die. Okay. And as an 8-year-old, trying to beat the torture chamber is literally pressing square, and you had your life meter went up like every time you hit square, but as the torture chamber went on, it would go down faster. Dude, me and my buddy. My buddy Taylor, we would literally sit there for like an hour on end trying to do it as fast as we could, and we would trade off in between the sections where you beat level 1 of it. Then he would go because my arm would be tired. And we're like 8-year-olds, and I remember buying like a turbo controller, like a turbo repeat controller. I got it for my birthday so that we could actually do it. It was just like those are the things that like you just can't like make anymore, and that's why it's one of the best games of all time. But
yeah,
that was a fun nostalgia trip.
Oh wait, I got one more game here. Trying to cut me off here.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
You
I
went
got one more
first.
game.
Oh, it's because
I went
yeah.
first, but then we doubled up
Yeah.
at one point, I think.
What's your
Yeah,
last
so my
game?
last game, Outer Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Did you play it at all?
I played Skyrim.
Skyrim. Okay, Oblivion was way better in terms of story.
Really?
And there was a lot more in the game too.
Okay.
Like the side quests were better. There was this one you worked for like the Dark Brotherhood, which is like an assassin group. They were in Skyrim as well. And you go to this house, you're invited to this party, and your goal is to kill off everybody there.
The Red Wedding.
Um, Kind of, right? Kind of like the Red Wedding. Probably written better
Yeah.
than some of the later Game of Thrones seasons.
Yeah.
But if you kill them off like one by one, they start to suspect that like the other people are the murderer and not you. And it's kind of cool how you can play off each other against like, the other
That's
guests at this
sick.
party. And like, maybe you can like wait until one goes into a bedroom or into the basement. And there was just like a lot of really cool quests in Oblivion. And the leveling system was a little bit better too, in my opinion. And there's just so much more in the game. Like Oblivion looked better, the combat was better, but like I think some of the story struggled a little bit.
I'm curious to. It's another game I wish I would have played because I really don't like medieval.
Okay.
It takes a lot for me to like get invested in a game that's in like I love like modern, like I love sci-fi stuff, like clearly like
Yeah.
Star Wars, like one of my favorite like franchises, or probably my favorite. Mass Effect is like one of my favorite series as well. So it's definitely a series I wish I played more of, but I'm excited to hear it. You guys. Man, a nice little long podcast for you.
Yeah, we did.
Let me know what your five favorite games are. Single player games. What's next week? Want to do disappointing shows?
We count that as keep going. What is it?
I was to say disappointed shows that we watched enough of. That we're
Yeah.
mad we invested the time in.
Yeah, I can already think of two, so
I can
that's
think
easy
of a couple
enough.
too. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So we will see you guys next week for that. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you then. Have a good one, guys.